Hi, I'm Cathy. Welcome to my channel. We're going to focus on hips and hamstring flexibility. So this is yoga for flexibility. Let's get started in downward facing dog. Today's class will primarily focus on a lot of the muscles that surround the hip joint. And I'll be weaving in different flexibility tips here. Breathe here in your down dog. We'll come up onto our tippy toes, bend our knees, and really get that anterior tilt of the pelvis. That means the pelvis tilts forward and your low spine draws in. And breathe. We'll straighten the left leg. Reach the left heel down. Try to lift and spread your left toes. We'll switch sides. As the right leg straightens, engage through the quadricep muscles, the front thigh muscles. See if you could lift your right toes off the mat. We'll come into downward facing dog. Reach your right leg up and behind you. Bend your knee. We'll take some big hip circles in one direction. So when we move the thigh bone in the hip socket, it helps stimulate the synovial fluid there. We'll switch directions. And that will give us kind of better range of motion here as we move through our postures. We'll release and switch sides. Left leg up. And bend your knee. And big hip circles here in one direction. We'll switch directions. We'll set the knee down. Come up onto your tippy toes, walk your feet up towards your hands. Try to keep your low belly scooping in. We'll come to the front of the mat, feet hips distance apart here. Grab opposite elbows, so ragdoll. And take a bend in your knees so that you can get that anterior tilt of your pelvis, where the pelvis goes forward and belly button pulls in. And you can sway a little side to side. So there's different techniques to do and get and stretch your muscles, basically, right? And when we kind of hang here and let gravity take way, and we can relax our breath and kind of be relaxed here, we send all kinds of great signals from our brain to our muscles and tendons and such that they're safe. Bring your hands down. Inhale, halfway lift, long spine. On your exhale, big step of your left foot back. Drop your back knee and inhale, rise, low lunge. You can always pad your back knee if you need to. Really reach up through your fingers here. We'll push the hips back so that they stack over the back knee and take now a posterior tilt, so opposite direction, and you might feel the front of the hip flexors stretch. Breathing here. So we're going to stretch all the muscles around the hip joint. On your exhale, straighten your front leg, fly your hands back, so no hands runner stretch. Of course, use your hands down if you need to. And challenging your muscles here, hamstrings and calf muscle, gastrocnemius muscle. Flex your right foot. Send those right toes up towards the crown of your head. Another breath, and we'll bend the leg. Inhale, arms up. This time, let your hips come forward in your low lunge. Now push down through your front leg. Fly your hands back. This time, release your hands. Take your right hip, and I want you to drag it back. So you're drawing your femur bone right into the hip socket to help you fold a little bit deeper. So we'll do some active stretching here. Curl your back toes under, flex your right foot, and imagine you're dragging your heel down and back towards your hips. And we'll hold like this for about 5 more seconds. And then release that. Walk your hands over to the right. Send your hips over to the left. I'm doing a little pulsing here too. Walk your hands through center. Send your hips over to the right. Walk your hands forward Big step forward. Come back to your forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, we'll switch sides. Right foot steps back, drop your back knee. Inhale up, low lunge. So we're taking more of a 90-degree angle here with the legs to start. Your hips stack over your back knee. I want you to take your pelvis and scoop it under. And breathe. We'll fly the hands back, straighten your front leg. Use your hands if you need to, but it's a very active way to stretch here. Flex your left foot, toes reach towards the crown of your head. Inhale, chest goes forward. Exhale, see if you could fold. Bend your front knee, low lunge again, hips forward this time. Squeeze your right glute muscles as the hips come forward. Reach your arms up, shoulders stack over your hips. Come back to your runner's stretch. This time we'll have our hands down. So if you're always up on your fingertips but your arms are really bent, you can start getting used to placing your palms down. I want you to take your left thigh bone and draw it into the hip socket. You can inhale, half lift, and exhale, fold. We're gonna make this a little active. You can curl your back toes under, that's just to stabilize. Flex your left foot, toes reach towards the crown of the head. Drag your heel down and back towards the left hip for a count of, we're doing a total of 8. Keep dragging back. This is a PNF stretching technique. It sends signals to the muscles. It's kind of tricking one of the tendons there to relax. And just release that. Walk your hands over to the left. Send your hips to the right. And walk your hands over to the right, send your hips to the left. Walk your hands forward, big step forward, forward fold. This time, legs straight unless you need to bend them here, please do. And the need would come if you're tucking your pelvis under here and your chest is way away from your thighs. Then I want you to bend your knees and start getting used to taking your forward fold like this for a while. Couple more breaths. Belly pulls in. We'll bring our hands, grab opposite elbows, and we're going to take some kind of swings here. So again, knees are bent or not. Either way, belly button pulls way into the spine. We'll go for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And release. Release your hands. Another breath. Inhale, we'll come all the way up to stand. You can reach your arms up. And exhale, take mountain pose. Shift your weight over to your right foot and bend your left leg. Hands are on your hips. We'll send the left knee out to the left. You can keep your foot up. We'll actually point it here, and then we'll go forward. And then out to the left. Try to keep your hip points facing forward. Otherwise, you're just keeping your hip closed, right? Ooh, we're trying to take the left thigh bone and rotate it all the way out to the left. And then forward. And we'll do that 2 more times. Out and forward and out and forward. This time as you go out, bend your front knee. We'll take a big step back coming into warrior 2. So I'm letting my feet kind of get farther away from each other so I can really bend into the front knee. And I'm thinking here of stretching the adductors, the right adductors, and then take my right hip and scoop it under. So I want you to try that there. Now your left hip is moving way out to the left, so we take a very kind of active and mindful warrior 2 here. Reach your arms away from each other. Another breath. Pivot your front foot to meet the left, set up for a wide leg forward fold. So ground down through your hips. Bring your hands onto your pelvis and tilt your pelvis forward. So that's that anterior tilt I was talking about. And I want you to keep that as long as you can. Now, if your head easily reaches the ground, you could challenge yourself by bringing your feet a little bit closer together so gravity has somewhere to go. And we're folding here. So hands could be in front of you. You could grab yogi toe lock. Or you can start walking your hands back towards your legs. Breathe here. Straighten your legs as best as you can by engaging through your quadricep muscles. So the hamstrings are several, and we have some that are in the medial side and the lateral side. So that's why it's good to do different straight leg stretches where the legs are moving away from each other or close together so that it gets all the hamstring muscles. Another breath. Inhale, halfway lift. Pivot your left toes to the left, and we'll take our Skandasana. If your left heel pops off the mat, that is all good. Just have your hands down there to balance. I really want to work this right leg here. So again, getting more into the adductors now and those medial hamstrings. We can do that same PNF stretching technique here by flexing our foot and dragging the heel towards your hips. And we'll hold here for 7, 6, 5. Keep dragging down and towards your hips. 3, 2, 1. And we'll bend. Come back with your feet parallel. Flip your left toes to the left and widen out for warrior 2 on the second side. So again, getting really active here as we begin to open the hips. Scoop your left hip under, stack your shoulders on top of your pelvis. One more breath here. Bring your hands to prayer. Turn your toes to point to the wide edge of your mat. And we'll inhale again, long spine. Exhale, fold. And this time, if you can start to walk your hands through your legs, I want you to do that. So your fingertips will kind of crawl through. Pull your belly button in. And if you're getting pretty close to your legs, I actually want you to tuck your chin in towards your chest. I know it can feel a little scary, like you might lose your balance here, but we're working on compression. It's when we bring the legs and torso close together. And that compression through the front abdomen will also help deepen your folds. Another breath. Inhale, we'll come up and pivot the front foot forward. Step back, downward facing dog. Come onto your knees. We'll take like a modified chaturanga onto our bellies here. Come on up to Sphinx pose. So slide your forearms underneath your chest, elbows underneath the shoulders. Push down through your forearms, press down through the tops of your feet. We're letting the front body stretch here. We'll pivot our left forearm in, bend your back leg, and don't grab it yet. So we're taking some active flexibility here as we use the hamstring to kind of draw the right heel towards the hip. And then we'll reach around with that right hand, half frog pose. So I think sometimes we lose sight of the hip joint and we think it's all about hamstrings. And we want to get the front of the hip as much as those hamstrings there. Because when we do poses like splits, the back leg is actually the hip flexors, not the hamstrings, right? So we want to get kind of all the muscles around the hip joint to start to open. Release, and we'll switch sides. So we'll start with that active, pull the left heel in towards your left glute. We'll reach around, then grab through the top of the foot. Use a strap if you need to. You'll notice I'm rotating my fingers around the toes. Push down, turn your chest more forward. And we'll release. Send your hips back here. Come into downward facing dog. We'll reach the right leg up. Turn your right toes to the right and swing slowly, mindfully, the right foot all the way to the outside of that right hand, coming into a high lizard lunge here. Drop the back knee now, but stay up on your hands for a moment. You can rock gently side to side. We're kind of easing into our lizard lunge. We'll make our way down onto our forearms. And Part of this easing in is, again, like a mental kind of strategy, if you will, with your flexibility. So when we kind of go in really strong or forcefully, unless we're doing like a targeted drill, we are counterproductive because the muscles start to like kind of grab on to protect the joints. Draw your chest a little bit forward now, working the back thigh closer to the ground. Again, I'm taking little rocks side to side. Take your left forearm, you'll draw it in like we did in that half frog pose. Turn your right toes out to the right, and then take a twist here, open your right shoulder up. Now bend your back leg, just like you did in the frog pose, reach around, grab the top of the foot. This time we'll push the foot into the hand, hand into the foot. You'll notice a different stretch there, especially on the quad, or wherever you're tight. And we'll release. Come back onto your hands, lift the back knee, big step back, downward facing dog. Second side, left leg lifts up, turn the left toes. So using the glute medius there to keep the leg lifting as we take a big step. Back knee drops down, lizard lunge. You can make your way onto your forearms, and we're taking these gentle rocks, slowing our breath down a little bit. Nice and easy. So it might look like, I don't know for everyone else's body, but I can tell you for mine, I might look relaxed, but I definitely am feeling a lot in my body here. It's not pain. We want to start understanding that I think we have this idea that flexibility should feel good. Strength training, we should feel sore. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot of discomfort and flexibility as we put tension in our joints. And that's normal. We can often feel very sore the next day. That's normal too. So if you're stopping yourself because you feel something, if it's not pain, if it's not shooting or stabbing or burning, then it's probably just a little uncomfortable. That's okay. We'll turn to the left, stack your left shoulder on top, bend your back knee. I think we all kind of know, push your foot into your hand, that in order to grow and stretch, we have to be a little uncomfortable and be challenged. So it's no different with our flexibility. One more breath. And you'll release. Step it back, downward facing dog. Come up onto your tippy toes, hover your right foot up. Now you can keep your left heel down if you can, but I'll give you permission there to come up if you need to. And we're actually going to kind of flex the right foot so much, come onto your left tippy toes and see if you could step the foot forward. And we're coming into pyramid stance. Pivot your left toes out to the left a little bit. You can keep your feet hips distance apart here. Fold. So another little kind of pro tip, take your right thumb into the hip crease and draw your hip back. It's called hip traction. You'll inhale, halfway lift, and exhale, fold. Relax your breath. If you're up on your fingertips and your arms are bent, place your palms down. Inhale, halfway lift, flex the front foot, curl the toes up towards the crown of the head, drag that right heel back, count of 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release. Walk your hands to the front, Could you push into the mat, flex your right foot, and drag it back into downward facing dog, and we'll switch sides. So weight shifts over to the right foot as you hover the left flexed foot. Come onto your right tippy toes. Belly pulls way in. It's okay if you have to bend the leg. That's not easy. Pivot your right toes to the right. Take your left thumb into your hip crease, and you're taking the left thigh bone, tracking it back. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. You can release that. So breath, nice, long, deep, even. Inhale, halfway lift. Flex your left foot, toes point up towards your head, and then drag back. Count of 8, 7, 6, 5. You're going down to the mat and back. 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. That's a PNF stretching technique. Okay, plant your hands, push the floor away, flex your left foot, try to drag it back into downward facing dog. Okay, big step forward. Drop your back knee. Straighten your front leg. Runners stretch again. So we've been here before. We're going to work into our splits. So inhale, start to move your right leg forward, back knee back. Walk your hands back. So if you have blocks at home and you want to use those, they could be underneath your hands or even underneath your thigh. Wanted to make a video without props just because I know many of you don't have them. You rock side to side a little bit here. Now take a moment, flex your right foot, drag your heel back again. Count of 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then relax and see if you have kind of any more wiggle room through the pelvis. And you'll notice I'm kind of rocking side to side a little bit. So remember, we have a lot of muscles that cross the hip joint. This is a complex pose. This isn't just about the hamstrings, right? Kind of all the muscles here are at play, especially the back leg. Think of all these muscles here that cross the front of the hip. So just breathing. Now, we don't want to suffer here, right? But again, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. Breathe. Now, if you fold, you can come into a forward fold here. I like to go to the inside of my leg, and I can start to get that pelvis down, my pelvis down, and the front of the back leg begins to stretch more. Couple more breaths. As you're ready, we will lift on up and drag the heel back. That'll protect your hamstring. Come back to downward facing dog, and we'll switch sides. So left leg lifts up, and if you think about it, we're in a split right here. So really reach that left leg up, and we'll step the left foot in between the hands, drop the back knee, straighten your front leg. So we don't want to overdo the hamstring muscles, so you have to really, it's another thing about flexibility that I actually really like, because you really have to listen, right? And then respond and kind of rub up against what is pain, what is discomfort. Flex your left foot, and we'll do this PNF stretching technique. We'll drag that left heel down and back for a count of 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. So you can do that about 2 to 3 times. Like if you want to go another round or two, if you didn't feel much or you need more. I think about 2 to 3 rounds is good. So breathing here. And then moving around a little bit. So again, you might be up on blocks. That's all good. We want to hold our split for a while, right? We got this far. We can fold over that front leg. Maybe go to the inside. Again, I'm feeling all kinds of sensations in my hamstrings and my hips right now. But I don't feel like shooting, stabbing. I'm able to keep my breath calm, but that took work. It's a constant conversation with yourself. All right, we'll come on up. Drag your left heel back. And just let the hips go a little side to side. And sit on our seat. So take soles of your feet together. I'm kind of drawing my pelvis towards my heels. Pull your chest through, sternum lifts upward, and then engage through your glute medius and the glute muscles there that externally rotate the thigh bones in the hip socket. And then you'll start to stretch the opposite muscles, the inner thigh muscles here. And keep pulling the chest and press down, widening those knees. We'll take another couple breaths here. From here, we'll transition into frog pose. So please feel free to prop up as much as you need to. It can feel nice to have a blanket underneath these knees, but you'll have your shin bones parallel to each other and knees wide. Feet are flexed, so inner edges of the feet press. And we want to keep your hips in line with the knees. Like, you'll be able to lower the hips much farther down if the hips are forward, but we won't get as much of a stretch through the adductors. So we're really getting into the external hip rotators right now. You could have a bolster underneath your torso, or you could prop up on blocks. I like to bring my chest down. I find that the closer I get to the floor with my upper body, the more I can kind of relax a little bit. So in some ways we have this very passive stretch, right? Because we've propped our body up here on the floor, and now we just need to kind of be in the pose and let gravity do its thing. And as you hold, your body will adjust and open. So make little minor movements as needed as that happens. These are my tightest muscle groups here, and it really helps when I hold these poses long time and relax in them. You'll notice a big difference from where I started just a minute ago. And that process, though, took a long time, that journey in the pose to find stillness and kind of ease in the discomfort. So if you're feeling challenged in any one of these postures, it's kind of part of the process for many of us. We'll be here another 10 to 20 seconds. Bring your hands underneath your chest. You can bring your toes together. We'll lift on up, bring our knees together, and slide onto our seat. So we'll prepare for wide leg forward fold. So our legs are nice and open now, so we're kind of returning back to this the medial hamstrings. And we've got the inner thighs nice and stretched, and our hamstrings
more lateral sides nice and open from our splits. So now we'll go as deep as we can here. And you'll notice I'm rocking before even coming down. I'm trying to find some mobility through my pelvis. So I want you to check this out. Like, could you go back and forward through your pelvis, back and forward? You can have your hands down to ground you. So we're going back and forth. You can play with flexing the feet. We'll stretch the Achilles heel and the calf. And then pointing the feet will stretch more of the tops of those shin bones, the muscles there. So making your way down. Again, I really am emphasizing this kind of easing into the pose. So I've noticed it's more counterproductive if I just try to get my chest down right at the beginning. Versus it's a little bit more like melted butter, that's been sitting on the stove. It just kind of gets right in the pan and starts being melted. So that anterior tilt, that compression. And I'm taking moments to engage through my quadricep muscles here. Couple more breaths. Where can you let go and just be at your edge? All right, we'll start to make our way up. Ooh. And we'll come back. You can slide those legs in. Keep your knees wide. We'll just windshield wiper. Kind of release a little bit here. All right, we'll make our way onto our backs and just close out with a counter pose, but still focusing on our hips. We'll kind of hit the outer hip now. And come down onto your back. Let's just hug the knees into the chest. Release the low back a little bit. Take your right knee, cross it over your left, and you can flex your feet and pull your knees into your chest. So you might feel the outer hips now stretching. You could bring your nose up to your knees. And we'll release, take your right knee over to the left. We'll just twist it out here. Just let the legs kind of do what they're going to do. Come back and switch. Left knee crosses. We'll flex the feet here, grabbing the outer edges of your feet or your ankles. So wherever you can feel a nice stretch here in the outside of the hips. And we'll pull our nose up to our knees. And release. Take your left knee over to the right. Big circle of the left arm. Let the legs open if they open. Come back up. Bring your legs up to kind of a 90-degree angle here, and we'll sweep the legs down. Try to keep your low back as flat as you can. At a certain point, let your legs kind of widen and release all the way down. And we'll take like a super quick Shavasana to just let your body neuromuscularly absorb all of that flexibility work. And see if you can completely release and even feel any sensations around your hip joint. And we'll wiggle our fingers and toes on an inhale. Take a good morning stretch. And exhale, bend your knees. We'll roll to the right side. Come on up to our seat.
All right, my friends, I hope that you enjoyed this video on flexibility. If you liked it and you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to subscribe, and feel free to share and like and comment. Let me know what other kind of videos you'd like. Namaste.